Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, Ceesay.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta mo nulo jel mo to nga andil mahalis. Hello?
Busol mo fine.
What?
Busol mo fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Busol mo fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
It's 16 minutes past 8 o'clock in the morning in the Gambia, and live on West Coast Radio, it's Coffee Time with Peter Gomez on Thursday, the 15th of May, 2025. Now, last night, President Barrow finally addressed the nation on the issue of the sale of assets allegedly owned by his predecessor. Barrow's intention was to allay fears about the transparency of the process and bring an end to a campaign of protests. Barrow spoke for about 5 minutes in English before going on to better express himself in Mandinka. But we'll bring you only the English version of the address.
Fellow Gambians, recent revelations regarding the disposal of the forfeited asset tied to the former President Jammeh and his associates have generated national concern with reason. As President of the Republic, I am delivering this public address with sincerity and resolve to allay your fears and clear any misunderstanding on the sale of the assets in question. You may recall that the Jammeh Commission of Inquiry, established under my administration, concluded its work in March 2019. Its findings form the basis of a government-wide paper published in September 2019, which I endorse to ensure transparency and accountability. In May 2019, acted on the Justice Ministry's recommendation, I authorized a ministerial task force to oversee the lawful and transparent disposal of the said assets. The task force has since been reporting regularly to Cabinet. Disclosures by the Ministry of Justice confirm, however, that certain transactions, which include the sale of livestock, tractors, vehicles, and other valuables, were conducted during the active proceedings of the Commission. Upon learning the details of those sales, some for the first time, I convened an urgent cabinet meeting on Tuesday, 13 May 2025, to address the matter. My initial reaction would have been to establish an independent investigative panel to get to the bottom of every aspect of the sales. Within the arrangements of our constitutional framework, I have always prioritized acting in collaboration with the National Assembly and the National Audit Office, both of which are already conducting inquiries into the matter. Their findings will be made public. and my government will enforce their recommendations to address the shortcomings discovered and hold accountable any individual or entity found culpable. Let me reassure every Gambian that the assets recovered belong to the people. My administration will not tolerate negligence or any wrongdoing linked to safeguarding our nation's resources. We are committed to full transparency in whatever we undertake on behalf of the people. And I pledge that lessons learned from this incident will be used to fortify our institutions and systems against future lapses. Until we receive the report on the ongoing investigations, I urge you all to remain calm, law-abiding, and reassured that this matter will be handled within the ambit of the law. May the Almighty God bless the Republic of the Gambia and guide us in unity and prosperity.
Amen. And that was President Barrow. Let's get a reaction to this speech, starting with Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, the Minister of Information, Media and Broadcasting Services. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning, Peter.
How would you describe the speech?
Well, thank you, Peter. By far, one of the best speeches delivered by the President, precise in length, but also unequivocal in message, that there will be accountability and that there will be transparency and that will let institutions work. You've had the President, like we've been arguing all the while, that the processes were twofold. That is, the Jammeh Commission sales, these are the loose items, and the government-appointed receiver sales, which are the properties. So I think this is reassuring. We've always said that government has nothing to hide, and government is committed to full transparency. And I think a key message from the President's speech is that this is a process. The transitional justice process still goes on, and some of the lessons learned will fortify our institutions and deliver the democracy that we yearn for, that republic. However, what is important is that I think that we should drive home, a key taking point is that there will be full accountability. And those who will be found wanting of engaging in any activities that is outside of the law will face the full force of the law.
After speaking in English, he went on to speak in Mandinka. Were the two messages the same, or did he say something in Mandinka that he did not say in English?
Well, basically, the key points are basically the same. That is, he gave context. He spoke about the process that took place, but also the fact that there will be full accountability. So I think this is key. Yes, the Mandinka version was more engaging because it wasn't reading from the script. And you could hear that the President was very sincere. You could hear sincerity in his voice and that he meant every word he said, that there will be full accountability.
Okay, because I have a reaction that tends to differ with what you just said. So if you can just bear with me, I'll read through it, and of course I'll ask for your response. This is coming from Moduba, a politician. One night, two speeches to the nation, one in English and another in Mandinka. While most people projected a defiant speech filled with denials and self-clearance, His Excellency President Barrow decided to concede to the fact that there's absolute mess in the manner in which the sales were conducted. To understand the whole speech, one must listen to both the English and Mandinka versions. In the English version, he hinted that he was learning certain details for the first time, while in the Mandinka version, he claimed that neither his government nor himself as the president received a report concerning the sales. However, concerning the sale of properties such as lands, the president was fully put in the picture. It may not be his attention in following details, but instead his appetite for lands as a former real estate agent. If this was a football game, you would say that the president played a low block in order not to worsen his relationship with the Gambian people, as stirred by the Republic and fueled by Gala. If you're a team that took 4 goals within just the first half, and you are a wise coach, then you should try to solidify your defense and not concede further, rather than launching an attack or even a counter-attack. This is probably the reason why he didn't attack any political leader as pulling the strings behind the gala protest. Nevertheless, he was caught off guard when he acknowledged the fact that a private account was created where the sales of the Jammeh assets were kept, as this was revealed by the article of the Republic which sparked this debate. It is indeed fishy for the Commission to create a separate account which is different from that of our national treasury or government accounts. In fact, the President didn't even bother to tell the Gambian people how much was put in the account or the balance in the account. Instead, he just indicated that the salaries of the staff were paid from that account and the remaining was invested in the country's affairs. This act doesn't inspire confidence. The full money should be disclosed by stating exactly how much they received, how much they spent, and how much is left in the account as dictated by transparency. Also, the President deliberately refused to mention August Prom, but qualified Alpha Capital as a competent agency that was recruited in order to oversee the sales of the Jammeh assets according to the law and without any losses. Contrarily, as reported by the Republic, Alpha Capital is far from being a competent agency as painted by His Excellency President Barrow, as the consequences are here for everyone to see. Now, with everything said and done, it is good that the President has recognized the fact that Jammeh's assets were totally messed up and that some youths came out to demand accountability. Moreover, the President has revealed two things from yesterday's cabinet meeting. First, that he wanted to set another commission to inquire what truly happened in the sales of the assets, and secondly, that he was asked to rely on the National Assembly's Inquiry Committee and the National Audit Office. But didn't the Ministry of Justice claim that they were rightly audited and everything was fine? Finally, what we could learn from Barrow's speech is that he has chickened out due to the high pressure exerted on him by Gala and the Gambian people, and now he's left with no choice but to sanction anyone who was involved in wrongdoing without fear or favor. Otherwise, he could land himself from the frying pan to the fire. Modu Ba Wan, President of Afro Movement. Dr. Ceesay, what do you think?
I think hearing Moduba's statement, there are two things. It's either he did not read the statement he did not listen to the statement by the President, or he did not fully read Mustafa's report. Either way, Moduba lacks the capacity to understand complex issues. That's why he's making such a statement. What is clear is that the President made two distinct processes. The Jammeh Commission sales, which after the Jammeh Commission submitted a report to the President. But in that report, the sales, the manner in which the sales were not in that report. On the other hand, we have the Alpha Capital sales, which are the properties mostly and the shares. For that one, there are full reports on that. What is important, and I think the President has mentioned it, is that there will be full accountability. There's currently an audit report which will be out very soon. The National Audit Office is working as it does to make sure that they investigate every transaction, both the Jammeh Commission transactions, but also the Alpha Capital transactions. In addition, there will be a parliamentary inquiry, where now the public will be able to see exactly what happened in a very transparent manner. So for me, I don't see anything difficult with that. Listen, Peter, let me just summarize this. There was a Jammeh Commission. Jammeh Commission had powers that were conferred by the Constitution. In these powers, they were able to sell off some of Jammeh's assets with the argument that they could deteriorate or they could disappear, and that they must sell them. And they made a good justification for it, and they had the orders to do it. And they sold off those properties outside of central government. Now, then, after the white paper, after the report was submitted, there was a white paper. The President accepted all the recommendations, and the properties were supposed to be sold off. The government appointed a receiver who sold the properties in a very transparent manner. Now, there are calls for transparency. There are calls that some of the sales done by the Jammeh Commission, in particular, the cows were mostly sold by of the Tariff Division. I mean, the Jammeh Commission sold off the cars and the tractors. People want transparency. They want to know what happened. We've set up two institutions within the Republic, that is the National Audit Office and the National Assembly, to inquire and give Gambians full details of all the transactions. Basically, that is it, Peter. I don't see anything complex in this. But I think Momodu doesn't have the capacity to understand these complex issues, even simple issues as this. That is why I think he's ranting stuff that I don't even know why he's getting at.
Well, within the last few minutes, Madi Jobate's Center for Rights and Justice, the Edward Francis Small Center for Rights and Justice, has issued a statement. We have monitored and reviewed the address by President on Wednesday, May 14, 2025, on the sale of Jammeh assets. Our conclusion is that the address exposes misleading and conflicting comments from President Barrow, while also indicating gross dereliction of duty and failure of leadership on his part. Do you agree?
Well, I disagree with Madi. I mean, first of all, I have an issue with when you call it a center. A one-man office. In fact, there is no office, there is no staff, there is nothing. It's just a one-man who writes and calls himself a center. We know his position. We know he's gone political. That's a political statement from Madi, so I won't respond to that. I would respond to objective analysis of the speech, and we can debate on them. But for me, when politicians give their views from a political vantage point, we wouldn't respond to that as a government.
He has a 6-point demand, one of which is immediate removal from office or suspension of ministers and all officials who were members of the Ministerial Committee and Task Force to assist the independent body in its investigation. This is after the creation of an independent body. He's not just satisfied with the National Assembly setting up a committee or the National Audit Office conducting, an audit into the whole process.
Well, that is his opinion. What Madi wants doesn't matter for us. What matters is what the government is going to do and what the government is going to, the measures government will take to promote accountability and transparency in the process. And that is two. The National Audit Office, an independent body that is working to ensure that there's accountability, is working on this case. They'll reveal their findings. National Assembly, which is competent authority, is also working on this. So for me, anything beyond that, I think is just wishful thinking.
Okay, so the president has delivered his speech. Before the speech, there were groups that were planning to continue protesting. What would be your message to those groups now?
Well, I see no reason for a protest there. The Gambians call for transparency and accountability in the whole process. Government is delivering. They requested for a list of those who bought Jammeh's assets. It is delivered. Government engaged even at the highest level. The president came out to speak to Gambians, reassure them that his government will leave no stone unturned to ensure that we go to the bottom of this thing. And anybody found accountable in any malpractice, in this case, will face the full force of the law. So I think now Gambia is a democracy. It's a republic. Institutions must function. The public must have trust in the institutions. National Assembly is a representative body. It represents Gambians from every part of the country. They are represented there. So we need to trust the institutions. Let the process continue. Let the National Assembly do their inquiry. Let the National Audit Office do their work. Let us wait for that report. I think for now, that is my advice to each and every Gambian. I think this was very clear in the President's speech that Gambians must exercise patience and that let us allow the institutions to function. We should have trust in these institutions. Let us wait for the reports, and then we take it from there.
Dr. Ceesay, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
That's Dr. Ismaila Ceesay. He's the Minister of Information, Media and Broadcasting.
Axila jam si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta mo nulo jel mo to nga andil mahalis. Hello?
Bisul mo fine.
What?
Bisul mo fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Bisul mo fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
Jar Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
If you'd like to advertise on the program, get in touch with Mr. Jibril Jassi on 699-0107 or 787-0107 or 924-24-24. It's Coffee Time with Peter Gomez, live on West Coast Radio. Let's continue with reaction to the President's Jammeh Assets address last night. We have heard from President Barrow's Information Minister, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, and a 2021 political ally of the president who has since deserted him. Now let's turn to Madi Jobate of the Edward Francis Small Center for Rights and Justice. The center has declared this the year of transparency and accountability. So, are we on that road? Good morning, Madi. Barrow has just set out to allay fears and clear any misunderstanding on the sale of the assets in question, to quote him. Did he achieve that, would you say?
I don't think so. He has not. I must say I found this speech quite misleading and, of course, disappointing. You know, I think the president was either not honest with Gambians when he claims to have just gotten to know about the malpractices, through the Republic's report, or he merely failed in his responsibility when, on the other hand, he said in his speech as well that he was getting regular updates from the Ministerial task force. So I'm trying to harmonize these two statements. But either way, it means the president, for me, was not just truthful to Gambians. Overall, he has failed to take responsibility completely. But more importantly, he has failed to take any specific actions. For example, this matter as it is, it would have required some temporary measures for the president to take to convince Gambians that he meant transparency and accountability as he proclaimed. And those temporary measures, for me, would have been to dismiss or suspend some ministers who were in the Ministerial Committee, but also officials in the Office of the President, at the Ministry of Justice, and other places, who were involved with the sale and disposal of these assets, including as well going to court, asking his Attorney General to go to court to make some freezing application for some freezing order, that all Jammeh assets that are sold should be frozen, tell all the buyers, don't touch it, leave it as it is, with the intention to create an independent body. Now, his claim that the audit is going to take place, when he described audit as mere opinion, backed by Ceesay, his Minister of Information and Chief of Staff, not Ceesay, and that the Parliament is going to also investigate, so he will not. Those institutions are not substitutes for his duty. He's the executive. He set up the Jammeh Commission based on Section 200 of the Constitution. So we've had COVID here, for example, AKI, the acute kidney injury. Parliament had an inquiry going on. The police had an inquiry going on. Yet he set up a presidential commission as well. So the idea that because Parliament is doing it, I will wait. No, you are the executive. Set up your own inquiry, because this is 100% your responsibility. All right. So, and of course, when we look at the whole history, this president is notorious for not only ignoring recommendations of commissions of inquiry of his own government, but to go against those recommendations. The Jammeh Commission is one of them. It banned certain public officials from holding office. He did not only ignore that, all right, but he went to change the Commission of Inquiry Act so that he can unban individuals and bring them back into public office. So if anybody thinks what the president said he meant it, is because you don't know the history of this president in reneging on his promises, on his commitments, legal commitments. So for me, my conclusion is that the president is covering up corruption and perpetrators, in this sale of Jammeh assets. He's deferring justice and accountability and transparency. And so I'm really disappointed. I think, a matter like this to come and deliver us a one-page, 4-minute statement. And, Peter, I heard you, I didn't follow all of what you were saying with Ismaila, that the Mandinka version and the English version. I urge people to go to the Mandinka version, where the president is talking about not knowing sales had taken place or how they took place, and they were waiting for reports. Can you imagine? The Jammeh Commission sales, this is way back in probably 18 or 19. You sit in 2025 and you are the head of state and saying you are waiting, for reports. So that is negligence. That is the dereliction of duty, because, you cannot be sitting all this while and still waiting for a report. What report are you talking about? So I think it's citizens. It should be clear now to citizen groups, political parties, the parliament itself, and everyone else, that the president is not interested to deal with this matter. And this matter, Peter, as we said in our statement, is a very important national issue. This is at the core of our transitional justice. And the Jammeh Commission, like the TRRC, should have been tools and processes that would have been seen a transformation of the Gambia towards democracy, reconciliation, justice, restoration of rights, and peace and stability and development in this country. But it is sad to note that the TRRC and the Jammeh Commission have become the most contentious issues dividing Gambians simply because of the failure of this president and his government to do the needful. And really, that is concerning, and I think citizens need to respond to that.
I don't know which of your statements you just made reference to. You seem to be turning them out, by the thousands. I mean, just to exaggerate a bit. But while I was talking to the Minister of Information, you issued a statement. Can you take us through that statement, Mahdi?
Okay. From the beginning, I can read it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we want to know what's in the statement.
Okay. So the statement, the public statement issued today, May 15, with the headline, EFSCRJ, that is our center, calls on the president to establish an independent body on Jammeh assets. It reads, we have monitored and reviewed the address by the president on Wednesday, May 14, 2025, on the sale of Jammeh assets. Our conclusion is that the address exposes misleading and conflicting comments from President Barrow, while also indicating gross dereliction of duty and failure of leadership on his part. You find his claim that he just became aware of issues surrounding the sales through the Republic's publication to be contrary to his remark that he was being regularly updated by the Ministerial Task Force. Furthermore, we find the president unwilling to take responsibility. Rather, he said he would prioritize the investigations by the National Assembly and the National Audit Office. These bodies are not substitutes for the president as head of the executive branch to carry out his duty, especially in such a crisis. It was him who established the Jammeh Commission through powers given to him by the Constitution under Section 200. We had expected that the president would not only take full responsibility for the malpractices in the sale of Jammeh assets, but will also go further to institute temporary measures for transparency and accountability. In this regard, we hereby make the following recommendations of what we consider should have been the measures the president should take. 1, establish an independent body with the following, but not limited, terms of reference. A, identify all Jammeh assets, including and beyond what the Jammeh Commission had identified. B, review all processes, officials, institutions, documentations, records, decisions, and actions in relation to the custody, sale, and disposal of Jammeh assets. C, receive all documentation on the sale and disposal of Jammeh assets from the Ministry of Justice and all other public and private sources, including all reports, receipts, letters, bids, maps, and other information relating to the Jammeh assets for review and determination. Review the process taken to sell or dispose of Jammeh assets, including the valuation report prices, buyers of assets, among others, to determine whether the rule of law was followed. 2, immediately remove from office or suspend the ministers and all officials who were members of the Ministerial Task Force or Committee and the Technical Working Group to assist the independent body in its investigations. 3, seek a court order to freeze all Jammeh assets from all buyers until the independent body has successfully concluded its work. 4. Account for the whole proceeds that were generated so far from the sale of Jammeh assets and allocate them to the Victims' Reparation Fund. 5. Dismiss the Inspector General of Police for denying a permit to Gala and subjecting protesters to police brutality. In this regard, open investigations for all violations of human rights during the protests and hold perpetrators accountable. And 6, consider the demands put forward by the Gambians against looted assets. We continue to say, after 9 years of setting up the Jammeh Commission as a fundamental transitional justice tool, E.F. Small Center notes with deep concern that instead of the Jammeh Commission bringing closure and justice, its outcome has degenerated into further corruption and distrust in the government. We lay this failure at the feet of the president, who has the primary duty to ensure that the transitional justice process, with its never again mantra, remains trustworthy and on course. It is unfortunate that since 2017, the very goal of the transitional justice process, that is justice, reparations, and reconciliation, are not only fast eluding our society, but also turning into ambers of conflict, division, and corruption. This is the fault of leadership and weak governance. We therefore call on all stakeholders to stand their ground in playing a constructive role in salvaging the country from poor and unethical leadership and weak governance. This requires that, 1, citizens and civil groups stand up, protest, take legal action, petition, and engage in all legal and peaceful means to ensure the adherence to the rule of law by public institutions and officials. B, political parties to play their accountability role both in and outside the Parliament, National Assembly, to guide the government towards justice, transparency, and accountability in line with the law. C, media to continue to expose corruption, abuse of power, and disregard of the rule of law in fulfillment of their constitutional role in holding the government accountable. And D, the Gambia's development partners to prioritize justice, transparency, and accountability, and the full adherence to transitional justice goals in its relations with the Gambia government. E.F. Small Center for Rights and Justice remains seized with this matter with the goal of ensuring transparency and accountability. In this regard, we will continue to provide all necessary support and cooperation to all citizens, communities, organizations, and institutions in promotion of good governance in the Gambia. 2025, the year of transparency and accountability. Full stop.
Madi, thank you so very much for your time. Our next guests have arrived. I should be talking to the National Human Rights Commission chairman, the chairman of the Media Council of the Gambia, as well as the executive secretary very soon. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Jar Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, Ceesay.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de de. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Busel mu fine.
What?
Busel mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave, Busel mu fine? Wave, your money is yours.